Hello guys and welcome back to the Expensive Coins History channel. These coins can change your life. Please sell these coins in a coin auction arriving in the United States, New York City. Do you have one? Before we go any further, take 1 second and subscribe. Because today's story is not just about coins. It's about hidden fortune, forgotten history, and life-changing discoveries sitting quietly in drawers, old wallets, and dusty collections across the world. Somewhere right now, someone is holding a coin worth more than a luxury car and they have no idea. Maybe it's inside an old box your father kept. Maybe it's buried in a jar of loose change. Maybe it's already in your home. And that's exactly why this video matters. Because today, we're uncovering two rare Belgian coins that most people overlook. Two small pieces of metal that once passed through everyday hands, but today are shaking the collector world with unbelievable value. These are not gold coins, not ancient treasure, not museum artifacts, just ordinary 1 franc coins. But what if I told you that two Belgian 1 franc coins from the 1990s are now being hunted by serious collectors worldwide? And what if one of them has been quietly climbing in value for years while almost nobody was paying attention? This is not hype. This is the reality of how rare coins work. True rarity doesn't always make noise. Sometimes it grows in silence until one day, the world suddenly realizes what was hiding in plain sight. Let's begin with a coin that many Europeans remember, but very few ever thought twice about. The Belgian 1 franc featuring King Albert II. For millions of people, this coin was nothing special. It was small, light, and common in daily transactions. You could use it for vending machines, public transport, or small purchases. It didn't look flashy. It didn't feel important. But coins don't become valuable because they were beautiful. They become valuable because of what survives and what disappears. And this is where the story starts getting interesting. The 1990s were a period of major transition in Europe. Economies were shifting, currencies were evolving, and many national coins were slowly being phased out. Belgium, like several European nations, was moving toward a new monetary future. During times like these, coins don't just circulate, they vanish. People spend them without thinking. Banks collect and destroy them. Governments replace them. And slowly, quietly, the number of surviving pieces begins to shrink. But collectors know something the average person doesn't. The most valuable coins are often born in the most ordinary years. Not because they were rare when made, but because they became rare over time. And that brings us to the first coin in today's story. The 1997 Belgian 1 franc King Albert II coin. At first glance, it looks completely ordinary. A modest portrait of the king. A simple design. Nothing dramatic. Nothing flashy. Just another coin from the late 90s. But here's the twist that changed everything. In the years after its release, Belgium accelerated its transition toward the euro. Old coins began disappearing faster than anyone expected. People exchanged them. Banks melted them. Families threw them away. And suddenly, coins that once existed in huge numbers started becoming surprisingly difficult to find in pristine condition. Now, most surviving examples today are heavily worn, scratched, dull, circulated beyond recognition. But a tiny number survived differently. Some were stored carefully, forgotten in sealed rolls, preserved in collections, protected by chance and time. And those are the coins collectors are chasing today. Because in the rare coin world, condition is everything. Two coins can look identical at a glance, but one tiny difference in preservation can multiply the value by thousands. And that's exactly what happened with certain 1997 Belgian 1 franc coins. As online auctions grew and collectors began reconnecting across borders, rare European coins started resurfacing. Not loudly, not in headlines, but quietly in specialist circles. Small auctions, private collectors, deep numismatic communities, places where real value is discovered long before the mainstream catches on. And slowly, a pattern began to emerge. High-grade 1997 Belgian 1 franc coins were not easy to find. Not impossible, but rare enough to raise eyebrows. And whenever a truly well-preserved example appeared, serious buyers noticed. Not because of nostalgia, not because of hype, but because rarity leaves clues. Experienced collectors study survival rates, mint conditions, historical transitions. They analyze which coins were likely lost forever and which ones may still be hiding. And when multiple signals point in the same direction, attention grows. But here's what makes this story even more powerful. Most of the world still doesn't know. While collectors quietly compete behind the scenes, millions of people who once handled these coins have no idea that something so ordinary could now carry extraordinary value. That's the strange beauty of coin collecting. Time transforms meaning. A coin that once bought bread can someday buy opportunity. A coin that once felt worthless can become life-changing. A coin ignored by millions can be treasured by a few. And the truth is, stories like this are happening all around us. Not just in Belgium, not just in Europe, but globally. Because when currencies change, history gets compressed into metal. And decades later, people rediscover what was left behind. But don't go searching yet, because we're only halfway into this story. Because the second coin we're about to talk about carries an even deeper mystery. If the 1997 coin represents silent rarity, the next coin represents overlooked legacy. A coin that existed slightly earlier, a coin that passed through even more hands. A coin connected to a turning point many people didn't realize they were living through. The 1994 Belgian Franc King Albert II coin. Now this is where things take a fascinating turn. Because while many collectors initially focused on later coins due to Euro transitions, some began digging deeper into earlier mintages. They started asking important questions. Which coins had the lowest survival rates? Which years were heavily circulated? Which designs were underestimated? And slowly, attention started drifting backward, toward coins that had lived harder lives, coins that weren't saved, coins that weren't admired, coins that simply worked until they disappeared. The 1994 issue fits perfectly into that category. By the mid-90s, Belgium was already well into a changing financial landscape. Cash usage patterns were shifting, coin production strategies were evolving, and public awareness about saving coins simply wasn't there yet. Unlike later years, very few people in 1994 thought about preserving everyday currency for the future. Coins were tools, nothing more. Which means most of them lived rough, ordinary lives. They were spent repeatedly, dropped, scratched, exchanged endlessly in markets, buses, cafes, and shops. And that kind of circulation leaves a mark. Not just physically, but historically. Because the more a coin is used, the fewer untouched examples survive. And untouched examples are the heartbeat of collector demand. That realization changed everything. When experienced collectors started comparing survival quality between mid-90s issues, something surprising emerged. Finding a truly well-preserved 1994 Belgian Franc coin was harder than expected. Not because it was rare at the mint, but because time was not kind to it. And that's one of the most important lessons in coin collecting. Rarity isn't always created at birth. Sometimes it's created by survival. And survival is unpredictable. Some coins get lucky. Some coins get forgotten. Some coins vanish completely. But every once in a while, a survivor appears. A coin that somehow escaped decades of wear. A coin that sat untouched while millions disappeared. A coin that quietly waited for the right moment to be rediscovered. And when those coins surface, collectors pay attention. Not emotionally, not impulsively, but strategically. Because in the world of rare coins, knowledge moves before money does. And by the time the general public notices, the biggest opportunities are often already gone. That's why videos like this matter. Because awareness changes everything. A coin sitting unnoticed today could become tomorrow's headline discovery. A forgotten keepsake could become a collector's dream. And the truth is, many people watching right now might already own coins like these without realizing it. Maybe inherited. Maybe saved unintentionally. Maybe tucked away years ago and never revisited. And that possibility is what makes this story so powerful. Because unlike ancient treasure hunts or unreachable collectibles, these coins existed in real life, in modern times, in ordinary homes. They were touched by real people, used in daily routines, passed between generations without ceremony, which means the chances of rediscovery are very real, and rediscovery is where stories begin. Not in museums, not in vaults, but in everyday moments. Someone opening an old drawer, someone sorting through family belongings, someone finally asking, "Are these old coins worth anything?" And sometimes, the answer changes everything. Because history has a way of rewarding curiosity. The people who look twice, the people who ask questions, the people who refuse to assume something is worthless. They are the ones who uncover hidden value. And right now, more people than ever are starting to pay attention to the coins they once ignored. Not because of trends, not because of hype, but because real stories keep emerging. Stories of ordinary individuals discovering extraordinary value in the most unexpected places. And whether those discoveries happen in Europe, America, or anywhere else, they all share one thing in common. They begin with awareness. And that's exactly why you're here right now, because once you know what to look for, you can never unknow it. Coins stop being just coins, they become possibilities, small, silent possibilities hiding in plain sight. And the two Belgian coins we're talking about today are perfect examples of that transformation. From everyday currency to collector fascination to potential life-changing discoveries. But here's the part most people don't talk about. Recognition always comes late. First, collectors notice. Then, niche communities talk. Then, small auctions reflect change. And only after that, the wider world begins to catch up. We are living somewhere in the middle of that timeline right now. A moment where awareness is growing, but opportunity still exists. And moments like that don't last forever. Because once something becomes common, knowledge, the landscape changes. Coins disappear into collections, prices stabilize, and the easy discoveries fade away, which is why timing matters. Not in a rushed, impulsive way, but in an informed, observant way. The kind of awareness that turns ordinary viewers into smart seekers. And maybe, just maybe, someone watching this video is closer to that discovery than they think. Because sometimes, the difference between an ordinary day and an unforgettable discovery is just one small realization. The realization that the past is still alive in the things we overlook, and coins are among the most powerful examples of that truth. They travel silently through time. They witness decades without speaking. They carry history without demanding attention, until one day, someone finally listens, and when that happens, everything shifts. What once felt small suddenly feels significant. What once felt common suddenly feels rare. What once felt worthless suddenly feels full of possibility. And that shift is exactly what has been happening with certain Belgian coins from the 1990s. Not overnight. Not with loud headlines, but steadily, quietly, year after year. Collectors have been watching, markets have been evolving, and awareness has been spreading, one discovery at a time. But here's something very important to understand. Not every coin becomes valuable. This isn't about magic. This isn't about wishful thinking. This is about rarity, preservation, and timing. Because in the world of collectible coins, three forces shape everything. How many were made? How many survived? And how many survived in exceptional condition? And when those three factors align, that's when ordinary coins begin their transformation. The Belgian 1 franc coins we've been talking about sit right at the intersection of those forces, a disappearing currency, a changing era, and decades of natural attrition. That combination is powerful, because when a currency fades into history, something very predictable happens. Millions forget, a few remember, and an even smaller number preserve. And preservation is where rarity is born. Think about it, most people never saved small change intentionally. Especially in the 90s. People saved banknotes, gold jewelry, maybe commemorative coins. But everyday low-value coins? They were spent without hesitation. Which means the number of high-quality survivors today is far smaller than most people imagine. And that shrinking pool is what fuels collector demand. Because collectors aren't just buying metal. They're buying survival stories. They're buying the coins that escape time. The coins that somehow stayed sharp while others wore away. The coins that remained brilliant while others faded. The coins that outlived the system that created them. And that's why when a rare survivor appears in a serious auction, something fascinating happens. Silence turns into competition. Quiet observers become active bidders. Private collectors step forward. And suddenly, a small coin becomes the center of intense attention. Not because of size, not because of weight, but because of what it represents. A fragment of a disappearing era. And that's where the global stage comes into play. Because rare coins don't stay local anymore. In today's interconnected collector world, a coin discovered in Europe can create waves across continents. A listing in one country can trigger bidding from another. A quiet discovery can travel thousands of miles overnight. And when we talk about major coin auctions, one place stands above almost all others in influence and visibility: New York City. For decades, New York has been a heartbeat of global numismatics, a place where history meets opportunity, where rare coins cross borders and enter the hands of serious collectors who understand their long-term significance. When coins arrive in major U.S. auctions, something changes. Visibility explodes. Coins that once lived in obscurity suddenly step into a global spotlight. Collectors who may have overlooked them before now reevaluate. Analysts revisit past trends. Buyers who were hesitant become decisive. Because large auction platforms do more than sell coins. They validate them. They signal importance. They tell the world, this piece matters. And when that signal spreads, ripple effects follow. Private collectors begin searching more aggressively. Dealers start looking through old inventories. Families revisit inherited collections. And that's often when hidden coins begin resurfacing. Not because they were newly created, but because attention finally found them. And this is the moment we are living in now, a window of growing awareness, a period where knowledge is expanding faster than most people realize, where coins once ignored are slowly stepping into relevance, and somewhere within that shift, the two Belgian coins we've been talking about have quietly entered the conversation. Not loudly, not dramatically, but meaningfully, because collectors are starting to recognize a simple truth: modern-era rarity is real. You don't always have to go back hundreds of years to find valuable coins. Sometimes, the most surprising discoveries come from recent decades, from coins that feel too modern to be rare. And that psychological blind spot is exactly why opportunities exist. People assume old equals valuable. They assume modern equals common. But coin history doesn't always follow assumptions. Sometimes, modern coins vanish faster than ancient ones, because they weren't protected, they weren't admired, they weren't expected to matter. And that's what makes rediscoveries so powerful. They rewrite expectations. They remind us that value is not always about age, but about survival, and survival stories are still unfolding. Right now, as you're watching this, there are coins sitting quietly in homes around the world that haven't been rediscovered yet. Coins tucked into envelopes. Coins sealed in forgotten drawers. Coins resting in collections nobody has reviewed in years. And within those quiet places, possibilities exist. Not guarantees, but real possibilities. Because history has shown us, again and again, that valuable coins don't always announce themselves. They wait. They wait for curiosity. They wait for awareness. They wait for someone willing to take a closer look. And that brings us to the most important moment of this entire story. The moment where knowledge turns into action. Because once you know that certain coins carry hidden potential, you begin to see things differently. You slow down, you observe more carefully, you stop dismissing small details, and sometimes that shift in perspective is all it takes. A second glance, a deeper look, a simple decision to not ignore what others might overlook. And while not every coin will change a life, some absolutely can. Not because of fantasy, but because of real collector demand, real scarcity, and real market behavior. And that's why stories like this continue to spread. Because every year, new discoveries emerge. Ordinary people finding extraordinary value in unexpected places. Moments that start quietly and end memorably. And now, after everything we've explored, it's time to bring this story full circle back to the two coins that started this journey. Point two small Belgian 1 franc pieces. Point two silent survivors of a changing era. Point two coins that once lived ordinary lives. But today, they are anything but ordinary. Because in the right condition, in the right market, and in the right auction environment, their potential has shocked even seasoned observers. The 1997 Belgian 1 Franc King Albert II coin, a coin that many people once overlooked, has seen rare, high-grade examples reach astonishing heights, with top-tier pieces valued around $60,000. And even more surprising, the 1994 Belgian 1 Franc King Albert II coin, shaped by heavier circulation and fewer pristine survivors, has pushed even further in elite collector circles, with exceptional examples reaching values around $81,000. Let that sink in. Small coins, once worth almost nothing, now carrying five-figure potential. And that transformation is exactly why awareness matters. Because somewhere out there, these coins still exist. Not all of them are gone. Not all of them are locked away. Some are still waiting to be rediscovered, maybe in Europe, maybe in America, maybe anywhere in the world, including places no one expects. Which brings us back to the question that started this journey. Do you have one? Because if you do, and if you ever come across one in remarkable condition, the smartest step isn't guessing, it's getting it evaluated, understood, and if the time is right, placing it where the world's most serious collectors are watching. Major auctions, global stages, places like New York City where rare coins are not just sold, they are recognized, because sometimes the difference between a forgotten object and a life-changing asset is simply the moment it meets the right audience. And that moment can change everything. So before you scroll away, remember this. History doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers through the smallest objects. A coin, a memory, a piece of the past waiting patiently in the present. And every once in a while, someone listens, and their life is never quite the same again. If you enjoyed this story and want more hidden coin discoveries that could surprise you, make sure you're subscribed, because the next life-changing coin might already be closer than you think.